The Isaiah Factor Uncensored starts right now.
Welcome and thank you for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored. Can having a difference of political opinions in a relationship be a deal breaker for couples out there? According to a new study, couples with different political views are struggling in the era of President Trump. Our next guest has the details. And joining us now here on The Factor Uncensored, we have with us attorney Jennifer Hargrave with Hargrave Family Law based in Dallas. Jennifer, there was a time when we always heard opposites attract in relationships, and we've had many powerful couples, even when it comes to politics, where they worked it out. James Carville and Mary Madeline back in the 1990s. But now a new study indicates that's not always the case. Couples are having a tough time if they have politically mixed couples. So first of all, explain to us politically mixed couples.
Right. Well, you're right. Opposites do attract, and that's fun and exciting until it isn't, right? So that's not uncommon across all variety of issues. But we certainly are seeing in this day and age, I think, really an emotionally charged time with regard to politics. And we don't know how to coexist, right? I think one of the issues that contributes to this is the fact that we're all getting our news from different sources. So it used to be in the day we would sit around the family TV and we would watch one of three news channels, right?
That's it.
And then that expanded. But nowadays, our news is curated to us according to these algorithms in social media. And I know the news that I get during the day is very different than the news my husband's getting. I was just at a dinner last night with a friend who had like information I'd never even heard of. I'm like, where are you getting that? And it's such an interesting time because we kind of live in these echo chambers with an intensity wrapped around these issues. And they really cut to the core of who we are, of our identity, of our values, of our sense of what's important in life, what values we want to pass on to our children. And while the intensity of our engagement maybe has gone up, our ability to navigate a world of people who hold different views is really challenged. And that includes the spouse that we married, that we thought we know that those sparks were fun and exciting back in the day.
And of course, like you said, back in the day, but is this a different environment? Are we kind of dancing around President Trump and his administration? Is this different? And is this more difficult on politically mixed couples out there? Is it President Trump?
Yeah, I mean, it really is. President Trump is a very strong character, and he really polarizes the issues. And I think, again, it goes back to sort of the news that we're getting. We are looking at at something, but with completely different perspectives coming in at us, completely different interpretations, and we don't know how to reconcile it, right? Either President Trump is the greatest leader that our country has ever had, or he is the worst dictator that's going to destroy the world. Like these are polar opposites.
Yeah.
Well, how do we reconcile this, right?
There's no in the middle, too, for people. There's no in the middle, really.
And being in the middle and having civil discourse and allowing room to really be curious and listen to the other people, it's not in favor right now. Right? What is being driven is the wedge. It's the I'm all right and they are all wrong. And so we've just lost the sense of civil discourse and the fact that differences are interesting. And I'll tell you, when I'm talking with somebody who is of a different political, viewpoint than I am, I always want to just drop into curiosity. I want to ask questions genuinely, not to patronize somebody, not to say like, Isaiah, you really believe that? Like, what the hell? That's not going to get us anywhere. But if I really come to you and I'm really curious, like, tell me, what information are you seeing or hearing about? Like, then we can at least have a conversation. But the minute we try to make somebody else view things the same way we do, in some way to really validate our own beliefs, is the minute we are in conflict. It just is. It's how we're wired.
Absolutely. Now, when we talk about the core of the issue that we have on the table, couples, if you feel like you can't even have a conversation about politics,
is it wise not to bring up politics in the relationship, even though you're going to be together for the rest of your life? How do you reconcile that?
Well, I think that's the default. I think what happens is people just don't bring up those core issues. And, I could go the rest of my life and not talk about politics and be perfectly happy. But it's not the politics is the problem, it's the underlying sense of values and the aspirations and the dreams and the way we're thinking about the world. And when we can't share that with our partner because we don't know how to have those conversations, we really drift apart. And that's when I see people coming to me, is when they've just learned to live separate lives, and that's no longer okay. They miss the intimacy, they miss the connection with somebody who they can share their life with. And so that's when divorce happens. And I would just say, like, if you're in that place where you are just feeling like, I'm not even going to bring up the elephant in the room because it just causes so much pain, there are resources, but you need to take advantage of them early when you notice this beginning to happen, when you notice these patterns of avoidance, so you can fix and find a way to, coexist with a respect for each other, even if you have different ideas. It's totally possible.
Well, don't go anywhere. We'll continue this fascinating discussion after the break. Stay with us. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. We continue our discussion on couples who may be struggling because of their different political views. Some people may want to try to compromise with their partner, but does this mean they lose their identity? Let's get back to it.
And Jennifer, when we talk about, as a divorce attorney, when we talk about the problems that are in the household and we can't even talk about it, are we talking about a possible solution, counseling? Would that be a good avenue so that you can try and work this out?
Yes, I think early counseling, unfortunately, we see too often that counseling late, when it's too late, just doesn't really work because you're rehashing the old issues. But you both have to go in with just the mindset of, I want to learn how to be a better communicator myself. I want to learn how to do this better, right? If you drag your spouse, so you're hoping that they're going to learn new ways, just throw your money away. I mean, it's going to be a waste of time. But if you go into it genuinely with the curiosity of, we could do this in a different way, I think you're going to get good results. I would also look at some relationship coaching, which is a little different than therapy, but that's more solution focused. It can be, there's a whole, it's not a regulated area, so you have to be careful. I would get good referrals for that. And something, if you feel like you're on the brink, is called discernment counseling, which is not marriage counseling, though it's with a therapist, but it's with a very focused idea of, do we need to ditch this relationship? Like, it's not working for me, and it's probably not working for you either. So let's actually talk about that, and then we can talk about things that we're willing to do if we want to stay together.
Now, is it a bad route and a bad sign if you, as a equal partner in a relationship, decide to cave in? And okay, I'll just go Republican with her, or I'll go Democrat with him. Do you lose some of yourself as a result of just giving in order to make it a better relationship?
I mean, generally speaking, yes, because what that does is it builds resentment. So if you feel like you can't be truly yourself in the relationship, you can't be voting for the people you want to vote for, you can't be participating in the campaigns you want to participate in, then you're giving up a big part of yourself. And while it may ease the tension in the moment, it's going to create more and more tension that will break apart. So I think it's really, I mean, that's, for some people, politics isn't that important. So if you're somebody who's like, I've always been a Republican, and and now I'm looking elsewhere or whatever. I've always been a Democrat, but I've not heard this actually, but I really love what Trump is saying. Uh, that if it's just not important to you, then yeah, sure, whatever. But if it is something that's important to you, and that's why the conflict is erupting, is because it's important. Like, I really feel like I really feel threatened by your values, right? I mean, if we cut down to the core of it, that's what's happening. These are very triggering conversations, but you can learn skills to navigate triggering conversations in a way where they don't trigger you anymore.
Absolutely. And now we're seeing a trend with many young people out there, Jennifer, where they are signing up for these dating apps where it's conservatives only, or it's Democrats only, and you date someone with the same political ideology. Do you recommend that? Or are you missing out as well when you do something like that, when you're only dating Republicans or you're only dating Democrats?
I mean, I think that depends on you, right? I've always been somebody who enjoys a little, spark, a little banter, in everything. But when I go home at night, I really want to be with somebody where I feel safe and secure. And having
Right,
somebody who's
right.
constantly antagonizing me about my politics is not necessarily going to make for the best, bedroom, whatever. So, I think it's probably not a bad idea to really get serious about the things that are important to you. And if going on an app where you are sharing the same ideology is important, it's just like a religion, like
Mhm.
a Christian app for Christians or Jewish apps for, if that religion is important to you, then finding somebody who shares that is going to be a good starting place, I would think.
All right. And if all of that doesn't work that we talked about here today, just call Jennifer Hargrave in Dallas for a divorce. Call it a day.
Absolutely. HargraveFamilyLaw.com.